Confidently controversial. Confidently controversial. Confidently controversial.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Confidently Controversial. I'm one of your hosts, Emily Paul, and here with me today, as always, is...
Kim Tweed.
Okay. Kim is angry with me, and I didn't do anything to her, but I've gotten to her house, aka the pod loft, and, just not nice to me.
I'm not being not nice to you. I just don't understand when you became Irish. All of a sudden... It's the middle of March, and you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day like a goddamn leprechaun. This has never happened before.
Every year my family has corned beef and cabbage, and we have at least two. We have it at least 2 or 3 times.
Why?
Because my dad
you like salty meats.
I do because my dad likes to make it. It's and then my in-laws like to make it. And I like to make it because I'll tell you what, it's an easy meal. I've been eating it in different ways my entire life. Uh-huh. When you grew up, didn't you have cabbage?
No.
Potatoes?
No. Potatoes? Everybody eats potatoes.
A little corned beef?
No, I've never, ever in my life had a corned beef anything.
You've never had corned beef?
No.
It's so good. It's salty. And corned.
As you know, I don't eat the beef.
But it's good. It's a hammy beef.
A hammy beef.
It's a hammy beef.
It does not sound good. I don't really eat ham
We used to actually have, when I was growing up, my mom would make pork butt.
Oh, God.
Which was like a ham butt, maybe a pig butt. But
a ham butt.
A ham butt with potatoes and cabbage.
Uh-huh.
So this
for St. Patrick's Day or just in life?
In life. We would just have, that was like a staple in my house.
We're not a ham people.
No.
My sister loves ham.
I love ham.
But I don't know about anyone else in my family.
Really?
No ham fans.
We love ham. My kids love ham.
Okay.
I can't believe
Are you guys good on your cholesterols?
I have stellar cholesterol. Yeah? I always have.
Despite all your hammed beef?
No, I have the good cholesterol.
Uh-huh.
I don't have it all the time.
Okay.
But I enjoy it.
Okay.
That one time I ordered it at a fancy restaurant.
You ordered corned beef?
No, I ordered ham.
Oh.
And it was awesome. It was great. So
okay. I'm sorry I'm mad at you. I'm really mad at... I watched the movie Armageddon this morning.
Why?
It's so stressful.
Armageddon?
Yeah. It's
Did you cry? That's a crying one,
I didn't cry. I just got really stressed out.
That's the one where they land on the meteor.
Space. The space.
Well, that's Ben Affleck.
And Bruce Willis.
And...
Liv Tyler.
Oh, I was going to say Steven Tyler.
He's not in it, but...
His song is in it.
A lot of... It's the whole soundtrack is Aerosmith songs, which I don't understand.
He's he's supporting his daughter.
Yeah, but that's not the way movies work. You know this and I know this.
But, maybe he did, how Phil Collins did the entire soundtrack to Tarzan.
The Disney movie? Yes.
Disney movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe this was Steve Tyler's... This was
Steven. He prefers Steven.
This was Steven Tyler's Tarzan. He decided to do the whole thing. That movie I have not seen in years and years and years, but I was friends with someone who was what do you call it? Like a residence, to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So he was working at a hospital, and it was very stressful.
Right.
And it was very emotional. And in order for him he had a lot of, emotions that he had to get out, and he knew he had to deal with them in one way or the other. So he would come home and he would always watch
I thought of this
movie,
story.
a sad movie. Mm-hmm. And Armageddon was one of the movies that was in the rotation.
Yeah. Because
it would make him cry. And he just needed something that would stimulate making him cry because he needed to.
It's even, I don't know how. I mean, it's not like all cry. There's a sad part, but at the same time, it's mostly stress.
It's a meteor heading towards Earth, right?
A meteor headed towards Earth, and then they have to get these guys that are good at drilling, to go into space. They have to teach them to be astronauts and send them to space. so that they can drill and stop this meteor from hitting the Earth.
Right. That's very stressful.
But all the while, there's other smaller meteors that are hitting Earth. But my husband says the movie has a happy ending, but I don't see how it's happy if half the Earth is gone.
Sure. And doesn't Steve Buscemi get space crazy?
Yeah, he does. And Owen Wilson is in it.
Oh, I love him.
And I forgot that he was in it. And he's Owen Wilson in it.
Owen Wilson can make anything better.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah.
But then he dies too. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
We've been watching Modern Family in my house, and I gotta say, it's so delightful.
It is a delightful
It's
show.
a delight. My children love it. We love it. It's fan-frickin-tastic.
I've been thinking about your journey with Modern Family and wondering if you've been enjoying it. Because we watch the reruns a lot.
Yeah. It's
fun.
great. I mean, we're in the first season still, and it's really funny, and I feel like my kids like it a lot, and they have. It's good. It's just an all around. It's funny. It's fun. I love it.
Right.
It brings
it's about
joy.
family.
It's family.
There's a lesson.
There's heart.
Yeah.
So it's good times.
It's got heart.
It's got heart. How else is everything else going for you?
Besides the major stress, it's okay.
The major stress you're getting from Armageddon.
Yes.
I'm so sorry to hear about your major stress from Armageddon. You know, you can just turn it off.
Well, it was on when I got up, and my husband was watching it, and,
Okay.
I only part watched, but still, it was
Okay.
scary.
Yeah, I don't like end of the world things.
No.
Like that is a genre of film that I choose not to partake in.
The whole time I was watching, I was like, what if Emily's movie today is Armageddon? But I don't even know what year that came out. I'm guessing it's too late for this pod.
No, that wouldn't be a movie. That's not even something I would want to.
Don't pick it.
No, it's not something I would want to delve into. Do you want to talk about the movie today?
Yeah, let's go.
Because this movie today is like the opposite of Armageddon.
Yay.
It's a movie that has been on my list for a while. A movie that is a big one in my house. And it's a movie that is just joyous.
Okay.
And beautiful and just a fun movie.
Okay.
Just an all-around fun movie.
Have I seen it?
I feel like you have to have seen it.
Okay.
And it's funny because I did a lot of research with this movie, but it wasn't all like the best research. Like it was like I did research on this movie, but I feel like I still don't have all the facts. Like the biggest fact would be what year it was made. So the year it was made, I just looked it up. The year it was made was 1984.
I believe last week you dogged on me for not knowing where Patrick Swayze was buried. And you were claiming I didn't do good research, despite my multi-levels of fantastic research. And yet, here we are 1 week later, and you don't know the year.
I just told
the
you.
movie.
I just told you. It was 1984.
Okay.
I saw this movie in the movie theater when it came out. And I went with my whole family and all the neighborhood kids.
Really?
We all went.
Okay.
And it was like a big deal thing.
Okay.
We were so excited for it.
Okay.
So it's 1984.
Yeah.
That means that I am 7 years old. And this movie just was everything.
It knocked your socks off.
Knocked my socks off and the socks off of everyone that I was with.
In the neighborhood.
It's a movie that we have just watched a lot. And I don't even know how much I could beat around the bush with this movie.
Okay.
And be secretive about it. This movie does not star any actors that you would know.
Oh, good.
At least not human actors.
Ew.
The non-humans are A-list, though. A-list.
Okay.
Okay?
Non-humans.
This movie has a ton of strong cameos, my personal favorite of which is that of Mr. Dabney Coleman.
Okay.
You look very, very confused.
I'm confused and concerned.
This is a third movie in a series of movies that they still make to this day, but this was the third one. that had happened.
Okay.
And a lot of people said that this was the movie that really
ruined it.
No, that where they really got their stride and got the voice right and just got it like, this was like one that's just top notch.
Is it a cartoon?
It is not a cartoon, but it's close to a cartoon because it's got something else in it. Puppets. And what I'm talking about is Muppets Take Manhattan. The third movie in the Muppet trilogy.
Oh, I'm doing so much better now knowing it's this.
I know.
I love this movie.
Who doesn't love this movie, right?
Yeah.
It's a great movie. I have to say, I read the Roger Ebert review for this, like word for word, because you could tell the man was just overjoyed.
He loved it.
He loved this movie. He just talked about the fact that and what a lot of other reviewers wrote about, which I guess you could see it. I didn't think about this as a kid, but it follows like an older kind of early Hollywood kind of story arc where you have Kermit the Frog.
Yes, Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit the Frog here, who is going out there. He's got a dream. And he's going to like scrappy and he's going to go live that dream. Yeah. And I love that about this movie in so many ways. But they talked a lot about how it's a Mickey Rooney character. So they said there's a lot of parallels between this movie and Mickey Rooney and who was he always in? It was she was in somewhere over the rainbow.
Dorothy.
Yes. What's her real name though?
Her name is Dorothy.
Okay, that's not Liza Minnelli's mom.
Yes,
Judy Garland. So they were in a lot of movies together. I have not seen any of those movies. I just know that they were in a lot of movies together.
All right.
But apparently it follows along with a lot of them. So, like I said, this movie has a lot of cameos in it, which was very indicative of the Muppet movies at that time. So there had been the first Muppet movie, and then there was The Great Muppet Caper, which came out a couple years before this one, and then this one. Now, this was the first of those movies that Jim Henson did not direct.
Okay.
So he handed over he had Frank Oz direct this one, and he didn't even produce it. Like, he was just Kermit the Frog in this one, and he was like, his reasoning for that was kind of like, he's really busy, he's doing all this stuff, and he just felt like, he didn't want to. He was looking down like the barrel of all the work that goes into directing something, and he was kind of like, no, I just want to like relax and just be Kermit. And one of the stories I read that I thought was just wonderful was the main character of this is this girl named Jenny. Her character's named Jenny. I don't know what her real name is, but she talked about being in. They shot this in New York. It's very it's Muppets Take Manhattan. It's a New York film, and she talks about being in Central Park. And there was some sort of technical problem, and they were down for a while, like waiting for this technical thing to get figured out. And she's there with Jim Henson and Kermit, with Kermit. And she said that there was a kid there who was just like staring at Kermit, and Jim Henson went over to him and just started like talking to him as Kermit. And she said it was just amazing how this kid didn't even. Like, it wasn't like Jim Henson was hiding. He was just, like, right there. Yeah. But this kid was just fully engaging with Kermit. And then Jim Henson was just going and, like, all of these kids came. Oh. And he was just, like, performing as Kermit to all of these kids. And she said it was just, like, it was just so amazing. And I do think that there is just something about the Muppets that is special, that is, I don't even know what it is, but...
Well, the Muppet Show was a big show for me as a kid. Like, it was one of the shows that I always watched. The Muppet Show.
So the Muppet Show was a little like, I feel like it was when I was very young. We watched it because it went off the air.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was reruns or
it
what.
It must have been reruns.
But I do remember it as a kid, like always, like the intro and everything.
Oh yeah, I watched it a lot. We watched. We got all the DVDs of it when my kids were little, and we rewatched a lot of it. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Jim Henson in a second, but let's just finish talking about the movie because that's really where I did the deep dive was on Jim Henson because I think he's an amazing person. But just to talk a little bit more about this movie, originally, this movie actually had a lot of other guest stars that were supposed to be in it, including Dustin Hoffman, Steve Martin, Michael Jackson was going to be in it, Lily Tomlin, Richard Pryor, and Laurence Olivier.
Yeah.
However, so Dustin Hoffman was going to do a character that was based on the famous film producer Robert Evans. So I don't know if you know who that is. He's
Bob Evans.
You would know who he was. He just has like a very distinct. The kid stays in the picture is something that's about him. He's very famous. Anyway, he at the last minute he decided that he didn't want to do it because he was afraid that Robert Evans would actually be very offended by it, so he didn't want to do it. And then all these other big names left as well. But there's still some other really big name cameos in it, so we'll look forward to seeing all of those. This movie was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song Score.
Somebody's getting married.
Oh, it's the best. But they actually lost to Purple Rain.
Oh, well. Yeah.
I know. What are you going to do, right? Like any other year, you don't go up against Prince, right? It would have won. But the songs in this I do love. And that song that you just sang, Somebody's Getting Married, when I was telling my family that we were getting married, all I did was send them the YouTube clip of that song, and that's how I told them that we were getting married. I love that song. I love so many songs in this movie. It's just, they're all really great. It was also nominated for a Grammy Award, the recording of this, for Best Recording for Children, but it lost to Shel Silverstein's audio edition of Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Not.
I know. I don't agree with that at all. Another thing that I thought was really cool, not cool, but I don't know, it actually answered a question for me.
Okay.
To find out is that, so you know how Disney owns the rights to all the Muppet stuff?
I do, because, Hollywood Studios.
In fact, right before Jim Henson died, he was working on that. He was working on selling all of the rights to the Muppets to Disney. Okay. And it was apparently pretty stressful. In fact, Frank Oz has said that was what killed him, like the stress of this thing. And he had done, like Jim Henson worked on there's the Muppet 3D that's at Hollywood Studios, and he was working on this deal, but then after he died, it took a while longer for it actually to happen. But
okay. Well, I was going to make a plea to Disney to reopen that little area of Muppet land, because there's like an empty store back there.
Yeah.
And you have the pizza place, Rizzo's Pizza. And you have the ride, and then there's the fountain and everything like that. Yeah, and it's very cute over there.
It is.
But they need to
zhuzh
it.
They do. I agree with that. But interestingly enough, while Disney owns the rights to all the Muppet stuff, they don't own the rights to this movie. Because this movie was put out by TriStar. And that was unlike the other films. All the other films were put out by a different production company, but that production company that put out the other films had fallen on hard times when this movie was coming out, so they had TriStar put it out, so they don't own it. So like this movie isn't on Disney Plus. And it's funny because I've often thought, why don't they do more with Muppets? Like you don't hear those songs when you're in in Disney, and it's because they don't own the rights to them, which actually makes me kind of sad. Because they're great songs and it's a great movie. It was actually the second highest grossing G-rated film of 1984. It lost behind a reissue of Walt Disney's production of Pinocchio, which stupid because Pinocchio is a terrible movie. Okay, a little scary. But Jim Henson talked about, he was really passionate about putting out G-rated films, and he was his thing was entertainment for everyone. That was really what the Muppets were. That's what the Muppets was all about. It was entertainment that adults could enjoy, that kids could enjoy. And he felt strongly that he felt like G-rated films were getting this stigma, like they were kiddie things or something. But he's like, no, it could be a G-rated thing and still be entertaining for everyone. And that was something that he felt very passionately about. Overall, the critics really love this movie. I'm not going to say there weren't detractors out there who, there's always somebody's going to hate.
Sure.
Many have said that this was the best of the first three films, which are actually the only ones where Jim Henson is Kermit.
Okay.
So by the time they were doing the next Muppet movies.
And they were a little later, right? Like Pigs in Space and stuff like that.
Pigs in Space and the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Right.
And the Muppet Pirate stuff. That was like 90s.
Yeah.
And so he was not able to be the voice of Kermit in those ones. But let's talk a little bit about Jim Henson, because he's a really interesting cat. His name is James Maury Henson, and he was born in 1936 in Mississippi.
Okay.
He was raised as a Christian Scientist and had an older brother who died at the age of 24 in a car crash.
Oh.
Yeah. He actually remained a Christian Scientist into his 20s, and he taught Sunday school, but then he wrote to a Christian Science church in 1975 just to let them know that he was no longer a practicing member of Christian
Science.
Science.
Like, great, thanks.
So I don't know if you know about Christian Science.
I don't.
But it's a religious movement, and it emphasizes spiritual healing and the power of prayer based on a belief that reality is purely spiritual.
Is this the group that they don't believe in
doctors? They don't go to the doctor.
Right. Okay.
Right. So they feel like science and health is a key to the scriptures, and that they're like sin and sickness are not real.
Okay.
So sickness, if you're sick, it's not real, and like you could pray it away.
Good.
Right?
Okay.
So they don't typically go to doctors for things. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And they won't get any surgeries or anything like that. Like they basically are just completely anti-medicine.
Anti-medicine.
All right.
So Jim Henson began creating puppets when he was in high school, and he worked on...
I'm sure he was real popular.
Actually, I watched some stuff of him when he was younger, and he looks a lot like somebody who we both know, who I won't call out on this show.
Okay.
But he worked on a local show when he was in high school, and when he was... he did a lot of experimenting with techniques that really changed the way that puppetry was used on television. So one of the things that he did was kind of if you think back at old-fashioned times, you would always see puppets with like almost in like a little theater, right? Like there would be like a little backdrop that there would be a puppet show. Mm-hmm. He took that away. Okay. And he was like, no, puppets should be more in the real world, like interacting with people. So he like eliminated that arch, and he kind of started making them more,
let them be free.
Letting them be free. And he wanted the puppets to really have life and sensitivity. And he started making characters from like flexible fabric, which wasn't something that was done before, like the way of a Muppet. Just think of how like a Muppet looks and so different. So like in the past, it would be like they would be carved out of wood. So you couldn't have a lot of...
Like a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah, like you couldn't have a lot of expression with that. And like if you think of like a marionette is being manipulated by strings, but with Jim Henson, either he has like a hand in like a real hand in one of them, or he uses like a rod to move it. So like he can make them more expressive in that way. And he just, by having like that felt, he wanted the Muppets to be able to speak more creatively than what was possible for previous puppets. And he used, unlike other puppets, he really used like precise lip sync with the Muppets. And it's hard for us to think of because I feel like we just grew up in a world with Muppets.
Right. Yeah.
But Muppets just weren't a thing.
Right.
And what he was doing was just so unique. And if you just go back and look at those early Muppet shows, or even he used to go and do like Muppets would be on the Ed Sullivan Show. And if you go back and watch those things, they're really cool and jazzy. Jazzy is like the only thing I watch. He actually won this, like, I think he was nominated for an Academy Award for this short film he made called The Timepiece.
Okay.
It's 8 minutes long, so I watched it on YouTube, and it's wild. It's definitely jazzy. Okay. It's like playing with sound, but it's reminiscent of the Muppets, but there's no puppets in it. But it was interesting. The other thing I thought was very weird was that, so he graduated from the University of Maryland, and he graduated with a degree in home economics.
Oh. Okay.
Like, home ec. Like,
makes sense.
Because like textiles for the puppetry.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but that's...
He could also make a mean egg.
I guess he could. Because
sure.
I guess you would have to graduate with a degree in home economics.
Huh.
So he met his wife there. He and his wife were like they founded Muppets Inc. together in 1958.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy to think that it's that old? And that would later become the Jim Henson Company.
Why do they call them Muppets? Did you find that out?
No, it was just that's what he called them. He called them Muppets.
They're not puppets. They're Muppets.
They're Muppets.
Okay.
They're Muppets. But he, like, the evolution of kind of how the Muppets came to grow, it's like he actually did a lot in advertising for a long time. And that's really the world where the Muppets would be like as spokespeople for, like, not Kermit and Miss Piggy and everything, but there were other Muppets that like, they were a big thing for like this coffee company. He had Muppets, but yeah, he was into advertising. But then when he linked up with the Children's Television Workshop for Sesame Street, that's what allowed him to not have to do like advertising anymore. But yeah, he did stuff. So he did Sesame Street. He was actually on the early season of Saturday Night Live. And every once in a while you see the Muppets on Saturday Night Live. Like, I think he had a good relationship with Lorne Michaels. It just was like, it just didn't match. Right. Like, the writers for the SNL didn't want to write for the Muppets. And it just didn't work.
Fraggle Rock, you got The Storyteller, you got Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal. I mean, the man did a lot of things. But he just seems like he was a nice guy. Sure. Everybody who worked for him said nice things. His wife divorced him. They separated. Well, I don't know if they were divorced. They separated in 1986, 4 years before he died. But they remained close. Like, her thing was kind of like he was married to his work.
He was married to those Muppets.
Yeah, and all of his kids, he had 5 kids. And all of his kids are in the puppetry, in the biz now. And she always kind of said, well, that was their only way to really get to know him and be around him. Like, he was just, not in a bad way, but it doesn't sound like she had any sort of, like, you know, was mad at him about it. In fact, she was very close to him up until he died. But he did die young. He died at the age of 53, and he died. This is gonna spin you out a little bit. Okay. He died when he died in 1990. He was 53. He died from toxic shock syndrome.
No.
And it was caused by strep.
Strep throat.
Yes. So what happened? I know. let me explain a little bit. So he got strep throat, and he had been saying, like, he was sick, his throat hurt and everything, but he didn't go to the doctor. He didn't do anything about it. He was like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. And he let it go a little bit too long. And then he was like coughed to the point where he was like coughing up blood. I know. Okay. And then he went to the, by the time he got to the hospital, they were like, he kind of like went into a coma. They were trying to like just pump him full of antibiotics. And one doctor even said if he had gotten to the hospital even like 2 hours before, he probably would have lived.
Jesus.
It was too far gone by the time, and his organs were just failing.
Okay.
At the time. So, yeah, if you're feeling sick, people, go to the doctor. Okay? You're very disturbed by this news.
Well, you know, this is just justifying all of your emergency room visits.
Well, I think that's the thing with it. I think we often talk about feeling guilt. I don't know what the right word is. Like
shamed.
Guilty, shamed.
Yeah.
When you go to the doctor and it's like, well,
nothing.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You know, but like, you know, I've had times where like I've had like weird heart palpitations and like other things, and you end up going to the emergency room or you end up going to urgent care. And I feel like sometimes the providers are kind of dismissive.
They are.
And you feel like...
You're like, excuse me, this could be toxic shock from strep.
Do you know about Jim Henson?
Right.
Have you heard the story of Jim Henson?
I feared toxic shock my entire life, and I had no idea I could get it from strep throat and not tampons.
Yes. Yeah.
God.
I know.
All right.
I know.
Are we watching this movie?
Yeah. I'm
More stress.
I'm sorry. But yeah, so Jim Henson, by all said that, like, people, this is the last thing that I will say before we go watch the movies. A lot of the people who worked for him compared him to Kermit and said that Kermit because Kermit was like the boss of the Muppets.
Okay.
But he was also one of the Muppets. Like he was like one of them, but he was also in there. And they said that he was a shy, gentle boss with a whim of steel who ran things like an explosion in a mattress factory. And Carol Spinney, who was Big Bird, remembered that Jim Henson would never say he didn't like something. He would just go, but if he liked it, he would say, lovely.
Aw.
I know.
Very
I like
nice.
that. And I like the idea that there can be a boss out there who's doing amazing things, who can just be kind
Right.
and gentle and
Yeah.
just lovely.
Aw.
So I like that. And let's go watch this movie and just feel the joy.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Controversial. Confidently controversial.
Hi,
Hi. We're back, guys.
guys. I love that movie.
It's a good movie. I have a lot of questions.
Because God knows Kim can't suspend disbelief and just see some fucking Muppets on the screen.
Well, I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to ask questions. This is my job as top podcaster.
Okay. Good. Go ahead. Ask away.
Okay.
Okay.
First and foremost,
Okay.
what world is this?
It's the 80s. It's New
okay.
York.
No, I understand. But okay, so all of these Muppets
Yes.
are animals. No,
No.
because some are humans,
Some
some
are
are-
humans.
but they exist amongst real humans.
They do. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, and they all went to college.
Yes, they do. In the beginning
And-
of this movie, they are all graduating from college.
They're all seniors in college.
They are.
Which implies that all of those Muppets are the same age.
Yes.
So, like, Gonzo
Uh-huh.
is the same age as that chicken,
Yes.
is the same age as Miss Piggy,
Yes.
is the same age as Fozzie Bear.
I don't know. I also just wonder, did they just all decide to go to college at a certain point? They're just like, oh, okay. Like we've done our caper out in jolly old England. Now let's just go back to the States and
Go to
maybe get an
college.
education. Maybe it's time.
Okay. Do they know that they're Muppets?
Yes.
Or do they think that they're animals?
Well, they never refer to them as Muppets. They call them like bears and frogs and chickens and stuff. Like that's kind of how.
Yeah.
And they always call Gonzo like a weirdo because he's not really anything.
Right. But then you have like Skeeter, who's a kid, a person.
You mean Scooter?
Scooter. I'm
Come
sorry.
on.
Sorry, Scooter.
Well, I will say this. If you ever see, this is the only, so of the first three, this is the first one that doesn't break the fourth wall and like acknowledge that it's like a movie. I will also say that in the more recent movie called The Muppets, they kind of talk more about that.
Okay.
Like Muppets, they acknowledge like Muppets are a thing that exists in the world. Yeah.
Because that's, and then like, I don't understand how humans feel about them because the humans work and live amongst them. And many of the Muppets have jobs.
I don't think it's something that you need to question. I think it's just like there are Muppets.
But I have to question it because, okay, so Rolf, the
Yes.
dog,
Sure.
has a job.
He does.
He works at a animal shelter or like a pet, like a
kennel.
like an animal kennel.
Yeah.
And he's a Muppet,
But he's a dog.
but he's a dog. And then the dogs in the kennel are Muppets,
yes. Except for the Snooky Yookums.
except for the real dog that
Sure.
gets dropped off. So real dogs and Muppet dogs exist.
Kim, I mean, again, as I said before, the Muppets have been around for a long time. And I do think that this was part of Jim Henson's thing, where the Muppets are just amongst us. They're a part of the world. We're all just engaging with them.
Okay.
And it's just,
All right. Can I ask another question then?
you may. I don't know if I have an answer for you.
Okay. Most Muppets wear clothes. Kermit does not wear clothes.
He just famously. Neither does Rolf. I mean, Rolf. Rolf. No, yeah, Rolf doesn't have any
wear
clothes. Fozzie doesn't wear clothes.
He wears a jaunty scarf and a hat.
A jaunty scarf, yes.
But except that when he's in the hospital, Kermit has to wear a hospital gown.
Right, and he wears
when
clothes sometimes.
And he wears clothes sometimes. So he is nude the rest of the time.
Sure, but he's a frog. Frogs are nude when you see them in the world, and you're not like, that frog's nude, get some pants on that frog.
Yeah, but bears don't wear scarves around their necks.
Right, but when you see a bear, you're like, ah, bear. But then you're not like, that bear's not wearing clothes.
I am. No, I just want everything to line up here.
There's no rhyme or reason to it, I don't think.
I mean, he has to wear a tuxedo at his wedding.
Sure.
But he just doesn't have to wear clothes when he's working.
No, because frogs don't wear clothes. But
then
he likes to
wear them
sometimes.
to the wedding.
But he exists in our human world, and humans wear clothes, so sometimes he likes to wear clothes.
Okay. And then finally.
Okay, ask one more question.
Kermit is a frog, and his name is Kermit. Rolf is a dog, and his name is Rolf. You've got, they all have names.
Sure.
Except for Miss Piggy.
Sure. Well, I always wonder with her, because they call it Miss Piggy, so does she have a first name that they don't, like her last name is Piggy, so it's like Miss Abigail Piggy?
So, because it's Kermit the Frog is his full name.
Yes, Kermit the Frog.
So, Rolf the dog.
Fozzie the bear.
Gonzo.
Just Gonzo.
Sure.
And he's like
Consuela the chicken.
Camilla.
I thought it was
Camilla.
Quincella.
Okay.
All right.
I just don't understand where all these questions are coming from, because I feel like the Muppets are just the Muppets.
Okay.
Like they just
Well,
are.
I'm just saying, if I'm expected as a strong podcaster to really get into things, these are the questions I have to ask.
I think the things that I more thought about watching this was, I will say that I think one of the things in watching this, it definitely made me think about, and I remember this as a kid watching this, I find the relationship with Kermit and Miss Piggy to be very weird. Okay. Because I don't think that, like in the other movies, in like the first movie and even in Great Muppet Caper, Kermit is so in love with her, like sees her and just is like, oh my gosh.
He's enamored.
He's enamored by her.
Okay.
In this movie, he doesn't seem as enamored by her. He more seems like annoyed by her.
Well, yeah, but also, he's a little sad when she's not writing him a letter, but she's really just nearby spying on him. But what's the relationship with him and Jenny? Like, could that be a relationship that is possible?
No, I think they're just friends. I think they're just good friends.
But could they be more if they needed to be?
I guess they could, but then I always think about, I don't know if that's, you're going a bridge too far there with that question. But I'm just thinking about the frog and the pig relationship in this. I just feel like she's real pushing about, you said we were going to get married. And he's just like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, I know I said that.
He's just nervous.
Yeah, but then and then even after they get married at the end, he's like, the line is, what better way could anything end hand in hand with a friend? Yeah. Which, again, is a little bit of a diss.
Right. Well, she does trick him into marrying him,
That's what I mean. It's like a weird relationship. Like, it's not a good relationship. He doesn't seem all in about getting married, and she seems like she coerces him.
No, and I don't ever remember them. I mean, you've watched these first two movies more recently than I have. I always remember him being a little bit standoffish about the relationship, and she's very into it.
Well, in the Muppet Show, like in the show, that is definitely the thing. Like, she's in love with him, and he's like, oh, geesh. Like, I can't do a Kermit the Frog. No. Not as good as you. But yeah, he's not as into it. And I don't know, that's just weird. And even at the end where she she's just all over him. Yeah. Like kissing him and everything, which is just strange. Like,
but that was always her thing. That was always her thing.
I guess so. I just feel as a character, Muppet or non-Muppet,
she's aggressive.
She's aggressive, but she's also like a little off. Like, she's spying on him. She's stalking him. Yeah. When they do get back together in the middle of this, where he finds that she's been stalking him, and they're in the handsome cab driven by Jim Henson, and she falls asleep in his lap and has like a little daydream about when they were babies, which you did not like.
I did not like that part. No.
Okay. The Muppet Babies were first introduced in this movie. After this movie, that's when the cartoon happened, which was also produced by Henson. And so which was a huge success. Like, I watched that cartoon.
Oh,
all
I
the
remember
time.
it, and I remember watching it. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the cartoon and it being a big deal. And I remember like the McDonald's toys and everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. But this, when I saw this in the movie theater, it made a huge impression. Loved them so much. Just so cute.
Yeah.
And even watching it now, like, they sing a little fun little song.
Yeah.
You were just like, no, make it stop. This is terrible.
I didn't like it.
Why? What didn't you like about it?
I don't know. It was just, I don't know.
Like, too cute? Like,
Too cute. Just too cute for me.
But you were just like disgusted, like, oh God.
I don't know. I don't like baby voices. And it was definitely an adult making a baby voice.
Okay.
So I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a strong reaction.
Yeah,
to
I
it.
did. I didn't care for it. Kermit.
Oh, stop it. I mean, I liked it a lot. But yeah, going back to I think the storyline with this is a fun little storyline.
Yeah, it's a very cute movie.
It's well put together.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's happy. The songs are good.
It's very New York City.
It's very New York City. The whole, like, that song at the end, I forgot until I was singing it, that I believe my brother played that song at my wedding.
Very cute.
Yeah, I cried a little bit at that part, but
Yeah,
I have some emotional problems. But
No, it's sweet. It's very sweet.
it is very sweet.
But I see what you mean. Like, you don't feel happy for them when they get married.
No, because she coerces him.
Right.
And he's not all that into her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I simultaneously feel bad for her, being like, Piggy, like,
You can do better. Find someone that likes you, that loves you.
Yeah, find someone, like, you're a fucking badass. Like, you just look great.
Right.
You take what you got and you work with it, and you, like, I feel like she's got all the confidence in the world.
She's always wearing those long purple gloves.
She
like
is.
a boss.
Someone steals her purse and she's just like, not today.
That's right.
She gets the roller skates. She goes after. She tackles the guy. Like, she's a badass.
Yeah.
And yet
she gets catcalled all over the place in New York.
She sure
like, the
does.
woman can't walk down the street and be left alone.
She can't. I mean, people love, but then she's after the frog.
Right.
The unavailable frog, emotionally unavailable frog who's just like not that into her.
But he just graduated from college. He's not ready.
They've got their whole lives ahead of them.
Right. But also, those men that catcall her are humans.
They are.
They're like into it.
They're into some Muppet Pig.
Yeah, they are.
There's like, some
Yeah.
humanoid pig. All right.
And I think it's funny, like, you made a big deal about, in the beginning, you were talking about how this is a G-rated movie.
Yeah.
And, like, Jim Henson was, like, all about it being a G-rated movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there are multiple things. Like, Dabney Coleman is fully smoking.
Oh, he is.
in the beginning of this movie.
But that was not a thing. Back when this was made,
I
everybody
know.
smoked.
But I just can't imagine.
They literally would take a drag and blow it in your little kid face. People did not care.
Miss Piggy gets mugged.
Sure.
You know, there is catcalling.
Sure.
There's a part where animals, like, basically chasing a big-breasted woman.
He is. I do not care for Animal.
I know you don't. I like the whole Electric Mayhem band.
I do not like them very
Yeah?
much. I like them in theory, but and I know they have that new show that's on Disney Plus that's all about them.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. Dr. Teeth, I'm not that into. And I like Janice and I like Floyd, but Animal is a little too much.
Well, he's meant to be.
He's a little too much.
Who's your favorite Muppet of all the Muppets?
It's so funny. I wrote this down, like, because I was going to ask you who your favorite Muppet is of all the Muppets. I think I would have to say, if pressed in terms of, like, who am I always happiest to see?
Get in here.
Get in here, you Muppet. I feel like I definitely love Kermit, but, like, I never took to the new Kermit voices. Like, after Jim Henson died, like, there were other people. In fact, I was saying to you, the person who voices Rizzo the Rat, he ended up becoming the new voice of Kermit. But then there was, like, a scandal that happened recently where they kicked him out. and they were like, yeah, you can't be Kermit anymore. And they got like another person to voice Kermit. But yeah, it always, to this day, when I see Kermit in other things and it's not that original voice, I don't care for it.
Okay.
Yeah. But like original Kermit, love original Kermit.
Okay.
Very, very much. I think he's the coolest. How about you?
I appreciate Gonzo as a character. First of all, he's always wearing clothes.
He's well dressed. He's got a little sweater on. Yeah.
And I had a book that was my favorite when I was a kid. It was called Muppet Manners.
Okay.
And it was all about Gonzo throwing a party, and it like was supposed to teach you manners, but they were like funny manners.
Okay.
It was a very good book. I loved it. So
I was always a big fan of Bert and Ernie as well. Like I always really liked them.
I can choose from them.
Well, they're Muppets, right?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, there's so many Muppets to choose from. I also really like in the newer movie, The Muppets, which I love that movie. I don't know if you've seen that before.
I haven't.
You should watch it with your nieces and nephews because it's a really great movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really great. And there's a new Muppet that they introduced in that movie named Walter.
Oh, I remember. This isn't that new, right? It's probably like 10 years old now.
Yeah, it came out when Percy was a baby. And we watched it a lot. And she used to have like a Walter doll. And
I remember Walter doll.
Yes, love Walter so very much. So I really like him. Who do you love?
And like I said, Gonzo.
Gonzo. Who do you not like? Who's your least favorite Muppet that you do not care for?
I want to like Miss Piggy because she's like the only girl.
Right. Well, Janice, yeah.
Well, I like Janice better.
Yeah.
Miss Piggy's very abrasive.
She is.
She's a person I would not like in real life.
No.
Because she would be like overbearing.
Sure.
I'm curious about how, so again, we talked about Disney earlier and that they have that Muppet section, and there's a pizza place that's Rizzo's pizza place. How did was he in other Muppet things?
He was first introduced. I think the Muppets they're in the Great Muppet Caper. There's the Happiness Hotel, and they're like the bellhops,
right?
But I don't think he as like a character with like the New York accent and everything. This was really the movie that he became.
But it's interesting
character.
to me. You said that like Disney doesn't own the rights to this movie, but they have Rizzo.
Well, Rizzo then after this movie,
he was in other stuff.
Okay, yeah,
got it
for sure. And I think I don't know how it works. Like if Rizzo's intellectual property that's owned by, like, I'm sure that there's so much to
each character,
everything. Like even when you take Sesame Street, because Sesame Street isn't owned by Disney. Sesame, all those characters are owned by Children's Television Workshop, because Jim Henson made them while he was working for Children's Television Workshop.
Got it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it had to be so crazy, so stressful. I'm glad that I just feel like Disney does right by these things. Like they have these properties, they take them very seriously. They really look at them and say, okay, what can we do with the Muppets? And I agree with what you're saying. Like I do think that they need to do more with that area.
Yeah, because it's pretty cool. I mean, Muppet 3D is a solid show.
It still holds up. Like I love it.
I do too. Yeah. Although that little thing with like the weird neck,
I don't like that. Like I feel like they should redo it.
Yeah. I mean, they could just take that part out.
Sure.
And it's got that weird bunny.
Oh yeah. Well, that bunny was in there was like a Easter special.
Yeah.
With that bunny in it. Bean bunny, I think. Yeah. Beans. But then you come out of it and there's that really cool building that's like half paint. It's got like paint splattered on it and everything. And the splatters are on the ground.
Yeah, and then there's like those tall Kermit statues and
stuff.
And
there's that like there's like that snowman.
Yeah, the melted snowman and stuff.
Yeah, they could certainly do more with that area.
They could. I feel like they need to liven it back up.
They should.
Because I feel like that movie or that show is always pretty packed.
Yeah.
The last time I was there, it was packed.
Sure. Like, it's really great. And I don't know if you ever saw it, but I know I've talked to you about it before. Over in Magic Kingdom, there used to be this thing where it was the actual live Muppets.
Oh, yeah. I was with you. We've seen it before.
And that was great.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
They took
either.
that away.
I know. They would just like pop out of like Main Street, not Main Street, but like America. Like,
it was in the America world.
Yeah.
It was right by Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would have a town crier come out and like they would do a song. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love that too.
I feel like it went away with COVID and it just never came back.
Yeah.
But it was the thing I loved about that was it was just so magical. Like all of a sudden the Muppets were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with that. They should bring it back.
They should.
I know we have a lot of influence being such a big time podcast, but you guys should definitely think about
Let's lean into
back.
the Muppets a little bit more, Disney.
They're joyous.
They are.
And I feel like in a world where
It's like seeing an old friend.
it is like seeing an old friend. Like for our entire lives, like
Yeah.
the Muppets have been a thing, and I feel like my parents love the Muppets. I feel like I don't know. They're just ever present in my life. My kids know who the Muppets are.
Right.
Like they've been around forever. So let's just keep them. We got to keep them going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. So with this, other things with this movie that I just want to, let's just touch upon the movie itself because, again, it does stand up on its own as a great movie. I feel like the whole thing, like the show at the end is, I think it's the best part.
Yeah.
Like the grand finale of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But I also love when he gets amnesia.
I do too.
Like that whole sequence of him getting amnesia is the funniest to me. Like I remember even as a kid thinking that was the funniest thing when they do like the mandible on him and then he's out in the world and he talks all funny. How does he talk, Kim?
I don't remember now, but
it's like, no, meat makes me ill, Gil.
Right. Yeah. It's a very, I like that too because he's just like, he's like uptight businessman guy.
And he meets the other like ad execs.
Frogs.
Yes. Jill, Gil, and Bill. And his name is Phil. And they just all rhyme and they just go, Yeah. And they're just all wearing their 80s business clothes.
Yes. Again, wearing clothes. Gets sent home from the hospital in clothes.
It's true.
Has to wear a robe while in the hospital.
Okay. This bothered you way more than I would have expected it to bother you.
Kermit's a little sick. That's all.
It's not like he has genitals or anything that are hanging out.
But he should. I mean,
I guess. You also made the comment while we were watching this that Fozzie Bear is gay.
I believe so.
And that the way you said it was very much like it was a known fact. And I've never heard anyone posit that before in my life. I've heard the whole Bert and Ernie are gay thing.
Yeah. They're a couple.
But I've never heard anyone posit that Fozzie is gay.
Okay.
Talk about this.
I mean, he just gives me a vibe, and I'm not mad about it.
No, I don't feel anyone should be mad about it, but I've never thought of him in that way.
Yeah. I mean, he's wearing a silk scarf with pink polka dots on it.
I always felt he was just very insecure and Kermit's his friend and he needs that friendship.
Yeah.
And really relies on Kermit for that friendship.
Comedian.
He's a struggling comedian.
Right.
People don't think he's that funny, but he's still living his dream.
Right.
And Kermit just kind of like, even though he's kind of annoying, Kermit's like, all right, you're Fozzie. Like, you're cool.
Who does Fozzie Bear remind you of as a human? Like, what human do you equate to Fozzie Bear?
What human do I... Oh, my God. Who do you have in mind?
I think of Dave Coulier.
Yeah.
Do you see why?
Yeah, kind of. Like, it's that same kind of humor that's not...
Right.
It's not funny.
It's not really funny.
But you're kind of like, all right. You're trying. Hang out. Like, it's all good.
Dave Coulier is very waka waka to me.
He is very waka waka.
So...
Yeah, I feel like Kermit's just like that glue who he has all these like weird people that have kind of glommed onto him, but he feels some sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Where he just, an obligation where he has to take care of them.
Yeah.
Because these people can't make it on their own.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're very codependent. They all went to college together. They all have to they all went to New York together. They all have to start the show together.
Yeah, but then they all go off. They do go off and they get other jobs.
Yeah.
Which
in Ohio and Maine and Delaware.
They just branch out all across the world. Fozzie, he can't make it work anywhere, so he just goes and hibernates.
Right.
Which I get it, Fozzie.
If you have the opportunity.
I know. Like, take it.
Yeah.
Take it. But I like that part where you see where everybody goes.
Yeah.
And they all just get, like, shit jobs everywhere.
Yeah, and I really like that they all I liked it when they sent the letters back. Like, I remember as a kid, like, really liking that. Like, we check in on them through their postcards, and that's a cute thing.
That is a cute thing.
Yeah.
Although I wondered then, and I still wonder now, how did they know where Kermit was? Like,
they sent it to the restaurant.
But how did they know he stayed and worked there? Like, that last they knew...
Right.
They just stopped there to eat. And then he went back there to try and get a job.
Right. Maybe they made a little deal with Pete before they left, and they were like, listen, we're going to send mail here. Okay, Pete and Jenny and Rizzo.
They didn't do that.
Maybe they did. You don't know. You don't know. And Kermit was like, yeah, and I'm not going to wear clothes. Okay.
Okay. It's just my kink. Okay.
Right.
I don't like to wear clothes, but
That's
you know what?
I am.
It's who I am. And you know what? I accept all you guys for who you are,
Right.
and I don't make a big deal out of it.
That's right.
So can you guys not make a big deal out of it? And Rolf and Fozzie are like, well, we don't wear clothes either.
Right.
So.
But nobody cares as much because we have fur.
Right. But he has, what do frogs have? They have skin?
Yeah.
Ugh,
Skin.
Frogs in real life are gross.
Ugh,
Can I tell you too about Kermit?
Okay, what? Do it.
So on Sesame Street, there was a regular sketch that he would be in where where Grover, who I never cared for really either.
Oh, I like Grover.
He's like a little much. Where again, he's like emotionally, he has some issues he's working through. But he is like a door-to-door salesman. And he always is trying to sell Kermit things he doesn't need. And Kermit is like, no, like, I don't want this stuff. And I remember one time he's trying to sell him, like, toothbrushes.
Okay.
Like, teeth stuff. And Kermit just keeps saying, I don't have teeth. Like, I'm a frog. I don't have teeth. And at the end of it, Grover gets really, like... frustrated by the whole thing, and he like tackles Kermit and he puts dentures in his mouth, and then Kermit comes back up and he has teeth, and then he starts chasing after Grover like he's gonna bite him. I did not like that.
God.
I still don't like that.
Scary.
I did not like Kermit when they put teeth in his mouth.
Okay.
Yes. But I really did think about watching it this time. There really is so much expression that the Muppets have, and I think that's why people have connected with them so much over the years.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the cameo appearances. You had Joan Rivers in there.
Right.
And
Gregory Hines.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was great. I was so happy to watch it.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear how James Spader connects to this movie?
Yes, I've been thinking about it and wondering.
Because it's Spader time. Spader time. Spader time. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I'm sorry. I feel like...
I like it when you do it.
Okay.
Whenever I listen back and you do it, I'm like, oh, that's joyful. But in person, not so much.
All right. So people may take issue with the way I approach this, but I don't care.
All right.
Because I'm going to start with Kermit.
Okay.
Because he is...
A star.
A star. And so we're starting with Kermit.
All right.
So Kermit was in the movie that I was just talking about, The Muppets, which features a cameo of Jack Black.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Jack Black was in Bob Roberts with James Spader.
Interesting.
So we got Kermit, we got Jack Black, we got James Spader.
Jack Black himself, maybe a Muppet.
He might be. He's another like American treasure.
Yeah.
I love that guy
he's
so much.
Great.
He is. Every once in a while, he comes up a lot, like when I'm watching reels or something like that, and I feel like when he interacts with people, he's genuinely a nice guy.
Yeah.
And as you know before, as I've talked about, his mom was a scientist.
She was a female scientist.
She was. So
the only one that Emily knows.
only that one and the one that's in Spaceship Earth in Disney.
Right.
So
right.
just those two. So there we go. The Muppets have entered the building.
Great. Well, I'm glad you brought them to the podcast.
Yes.
You guys have a wonderful week. Make sure you visit our Instagram. We're trying real hard there. Emily's going to make some TikToks eventually.
I've been doing a good job with
You
it.
have.
Okay.
And that's at Confidently Contra.
Unless TikTok gets canceled, in which case we'll still be on the Reels. And we'll be on the YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. And then what else? So
go to the website.
Yeah.
Have you updated it?
No.
Okay.
No. It's a little outdated, but I'll fix it, guys. I promise.
Okay. So you could do that. You should go back and listen to all of our episodes. We see you guys, some of you guys going in there and catching up and going back in time and listening to older episodes. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. We appreciate it. And, I feel like if you be confident. If you just don't want to wear clothes and you're a frog, just don't wear clothes. It's fine.
Disgusting.
Be you.
Gross.
And even if that is controversial, I stand by it.
Okay.
Stand by it. So, all right, guys. Well, we love you so much. We hope you have a wonderful week. And go watch Muppets Take Manhattan and feel the joy.
Feel that joy.
All right. Love you guys.
Goodbye.
Confidently controversial.